using the Xerneas and the Groudon. There we have the two teams. On the screen for Ashton we have the Salamence, Xerneas, Tapu Fini, Amoonguss, Incineroar, and Groudon. And then on Alex's side we have Gengar, Incineroar, Xerneas, Groudon, Tapu Fini, and Landorus. So I think that's the exact same 6 Pokemon that Till used in the previous round. And for Ashton, though we haven't featured those exact same 6 Pokemon on stream yet, those 6 are really said to be one of the most common combination, because those Pokemon really add up very, very well and give you different options to support the Xerneas and the Groudon.
They certainly do. And a Pokemon we haven't really talked too much about is that Amoonguss, a Pokemon really well known for its redirection abilities, can use that Rage Powder, can use Spore to send Pokemon to sleep. But with 2 Tapu Finis on the field here on either side, I feel like Spore is not going to be the option, as the Misty Terrain of course will stop any of these status afflictions from going up. But Amoonguss, although it could be so strong supporting the Xerneas, using that redirection to help maybe get up a Geomancy, you do still have to worry so much about the Pokemon on Alex's side of the field. He has got that Landorus, and it's a Pokemon that is a little bit unpredictable. It can hold a whole array of items, but it has notably been increasing its Z-move item at the moment.
I really like the Landorus in this matchup, because it's one of the few Pokemon that can knock out Groudon in one hit without it being a water type attack. So essentially both of them share 4 Pokemon. They both have Xerneas, Groudon, Incineroar, and Tapu Fini. But then for the Mega choice, Ashton is going with a Salamence that I think is also a pretty strong Pokemon in this matchup that I would expect him to use in this match. And then for Alex's side, we have the Gengar, which can also definitely be used in this matchup depending on the moveset. So I think we might see some differences here between this in the setup. And there we have it, Alex leading off with Landorus and Gengar against the Incineroar and Xerneas of Ashton.
Yeah, a really common lead there with Incineroar and Xerneas, but we know how dangerous it can be. You've got Fake Out, you've got Geomancy, but one thing that Xerneas does not want to face down against is that Gengar. Being Ghost type as well, Fake Out is not effective at all, and Gengar will be free to maybe go for something like a Sludge Bomb and trap in both these Pokemon. Of course as well, Landorus, even though it's been intimidated, we have yet to find out if it is maybe that special variant you mentioned earlier, Marcus, and that could really take Ashton by surprise. Yeah,
so Landorus here in a very strong position against the Incineroar, and Gengar in a good position against the Xerneas. So usually what you want to try and do here is maybe set up a taunt on the Xerneas to prevent it from setting up any Geomancy, and then knock it out with Sludge Bomb later on, because if you use Sludge Bomb right away, then Xerneas might take that attack and set up the Geomancy anyway, and then you have to deal with, now the Amoonguss, and things can get a little bit dicey. So let's see if taunt is something that Alex has on his Pokemon, but Ashton probably doesn't want to deal with any of that. Is going to protect the Xerneas and brought in the Amoonguss for some redirection next turn.
Yes, I absolutely love this play by Ashton here. Gengar revealing that it does have taunt, of course, being much speedier before the Geomancy. That would have locked down any boosting opportunity for the opposing Xerneas. Landorus does go for the U-turn into the Amoonguss that switched in there, wants to reset potentially the Intimidate that it took for later on, or wants to utilize its moves for different Pokemon in the back for Ashton. But I think, like you said, Marcus, switching in that Amoonguss so that it can use redirection on the next turn, try and get that Geomancy up, is really, really key for Ashton, particularly as both those Pokemon are now locked in.
Yeah, and very well done here, going for the U-turn and resetting the board state a little bit. Now bringing in the Primal Groudon. The Amoonguss and the Xerneas are both trapped in, so they cannot switch out for Ashton, and Primal Groudon is a very strong Pokemon that you want to have here in this situation. So now, the question that Alex might have to ask himself is whether he wants to knock out the Amoonguss right away, or whether he wants to just taunt it and shut it down that way, because a taunted Amoonguss really cannot do too much here, and the Groudon is both Groudon and Gengar resist fairy type attacks, so both of them can stick around for a little while. And so I would expect Alex not to try and go for the full offensive yet, but instead maybe go for another taunt with the Gengar, and then Precipice Blades to bypass the Rage Powder and also hit the Xerneas.
I think you're right. Taunting down that Amoonguss and shutting it down completely, while it's still stuck on the field, could be really good for later on in the game. Gengar does, of course, go for the taunt, targeting down into that Amoonguss, so no spores, no redirection later on, but it's still trapped on the field as Xerneas does go for the Geomancy. Of course, this will boost up all of its stats here, with special attack, special defense, and speed being the ones that get boosted by Geomancy, but Groudon is still free to move, and if it goes for something like a Precipice Blades, that's still going to do a huge amount of damage to that Xerneas. It doesn't get a defense boost from this, and Precipice Blades is such a strong and powerful move, and of course that Amoonguss doesn't want to take any fire type damage either. It is going to be Precipice Blades the choice. It does connect. Alex does not need Gravity on this occasion, and is able to deal a huge amount of damage. You can see it's going to be a 2-hit KO on that Xerneas.
Yeah, so both Pokemon might go down to get another Precipice Blades, though you have to factor in the accuracy and so on, so Alex also might want to do something else, as now he would have the option to go for a Fire Punch, as Amoonguss cannot redirect that any longer. So it's one of the situations where Alex is in a very, very strong position, in my opinion. Ashton has to make sure that he somehow can use his Xerneas boosts, but yeah, against Groudon and the Gengar, Xerneas seems a little useless, even though it has all those boosts from the Geomancy. It's just gonna go for a Moonblast, but Alex might just get a double knockout this turn.
Exactly, goes for the Moonblast into the Gengar. It is not enough to pick up the KO as Gengar returns with a Sludge Bomb. Going to target down into that opposing Amoonguss, just wants to get it off the field, and it will be enough to pick up the KO. So if Groudon is able to land... Oh, it goes for Roar, actually.
Okay.
So a really interesting move on the Groudon. It means that Xerneas is going to be able to survive, but it now does not have those boosts, as Incineroar is roared right into play.
Yeah, so a Fire Punch probably would have knocked out the Xerneas right away, but Alex might have predicted that Protect to come out and didn't want for the next turn maybe like the Incineroar coming in for the Fake Out on the Groudon and yeah, Moonblast, say with a critical hit or something, and then all of a sudden Ashton is just right back in this game. But oh, actually we're seeing last Pokemon on Ashton's side, and it's not the Groudon, but instead his Salamence, so he did not bring his own Primal Groudon to this battle, which I think is a good choice, because against the Landorus, Groudon has a hard time, but Salamence really strong here against the Groudon of Alex's side, though. Gengar still being the fastest Pokemon on the field, immune to Fake Out, still trapping in both Pokemon on Ashton's side, so Alex can make use of that, but yeah, not getting the KO on the Xerneas, even though he had the chance. Yeah, let's hope that it doesn't come back to bite Alex.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really interesting having the Salamence. I actually love it. You've got double Intimidate here, which is really good against both the Groudon and Landorus, like you mentioned. So that could be a really good reason to have dropped his own Groudon for this particular matchup. As the Groudon on Alex's side is going to go for a Protect, doesn't want to take any damage or potentially that Fake Out. No Fake Out though. Gengar goes straight for a Taunt, going to stop any potential Tailwinds coming out from Salamence as it goes for a Hyper Voice instead. Of course, Groudon protecting, not going to take any damage at the moment, but this will do a good amount to Gengar, and it's certainly enough to pick up the KO. So at least Ashton's Pokemon are now free from that Shadow Tag.
Yeah, now that would be an opportunity. Oh, actually, hold that thought. No hit, like no move in the Protect, but instead we're going to see the Z move coming out from that Incineroar, so that will do a little bit of chip damage, even through the Protect. And yeah, chip away on that Primal Groudon just a little bit, because yeah, Z moves, they're so powerful, they're able to hit through the Protect with that malicious Moon Slot. So there we have it. Incineroar, yeah, jumping up in the air, and that'll do a little bit of damage, but yeah. So no Tailwind coming out from Ashton, and now this would be a prime opportunity for Alex to bring out his Xerneas, if that is what he has in the back, because the Salamence is taunted, so cannot protect from any of those Fairy-type attacks, and might just go down to like a Moonblast or even a Dazzling Gleam.
Exactly, we might even see that Salamence switch out potentially, but either way, Ashton has got no way to stop Geomancy coming up from Xerneas, unless he is potentially holding a Roar of his own on either one of the Pokemon he's got on the field at the moment. So Xerneas can get his boost up, and he can sort of say, Alex, you used this against me, I see what you're doing here, I can do it right back, but that is yet to be discovered.
Yeah, even then though, Salamence being taunted and the Incineroar being threatened by that Primal Groudon on Alex's side, yeah, I think once you have Groudon and Xerneas in a good position next to each other, then it's very difficult to come back, because it's just so difficult to switch into the combination of Fairy-type and Ground-type attacks, and yeah, Ashton really with his back against the wall.
Yeah, it's definitely a sticky situation for him here. That Groudon is so strong, and particularly when it's paired up against the Xerneas, they're just two powerhouses that deal out so much offensive pressure. Hyper Voice coming out though from the Salamence doesn't really do too much to either of these Pokemon for them to be too worried, and no Geomancy needed at the moment from the Xerneas, as it goes for a really powerful Moonblast, and it is enough to pick up the KO against that opposing Salamence. The Xerneas just demonstrating how powerful it is in its own right. Incineroar though, being very nimble, dodging out the way, and does go for a Roar, but Alex, of course, not going for the Geomancy, has just set himself up perfectly for later on in the game, and you know, that Incineroar, for its efforts, is going to be intimidated. Yeah,
well done here by Alex, realizing that he does not have to go for the Geomancy, because, yeah, Salamence was taunted, there was Xerneas in the back that was in Moonblast KO range, so Moonblast in that slot guarantees a KO, and then he still has the Landorus in the back with potentially that Z move, the Tectonic Rage, to take yet another KO. So very well played here by Alex, and Ashton, he had to take a risk somewhere, decided to go for the Roar because he was expecting or hoping kind of for that Geomancy to, yeah, level things out again between the two Xerneas, but now, yeah, he's forced to bring out his last Pokemon, which is his own Xerneas, and I think the Landorus and the Groudon just look so strong against both the Incineroar and the Xerneas, and yeah, this should be Alex's game.
Exactly, Incineroar, of course, really struggles against both these Pokemon, and Xerneas, having taken so much damage previously from Precipice Blades, isn't really in a position to start turning this game around for Ashton. We already saw that with one Precipice Blades it took there, so it would be a 2-hit KO, showing Ashton maybe has a slightly faster Xerneas as opposed to a really bulky one. So that's always some good information for Alex as well going forward, particularly in a mirror. You just want to see what your opponent has done that little bit differently so you can adjust your strategy. But it's going to be another Z move here, Marcus.
Yep, and this is going to be the Tectonic Rage that we were mentioning earlier. Yeah, boosting up the Landorus. Now, we do not know whether this is a physical or special type Landorus, because U-turn is mainly used for the utility and not for the damage. So, yeah, either way, this is probably enough to get the knockout on the Incineroar, it being super effective. And yeah, there
it can't jump out of the way of this one like it did with Precipice Blades.
Yeah, unfortunately not. And Incineroar, yeah, is going down, and Ashton down to his last Pokemon. Yeah, it's going to be a long road for that Xerneas.
Yeah, even if Xerneas was able to get up a Geomancy, it had its Power Herb used previously, so it would be the full 2 turns. And unfortunately for Ashton, Alex has just been able to sort of whittle through Ashton's team and put himself in this tremendous position with so many powerhouses left on the field.
Yeah, very well done here by Alex, and I think, yeah, the very first turn really played a huge factor here, going for the U-turn and positioning into the Groudon. So say he didn't do that, then he would have needed to waste another turn to switch to the Groudon to then go for the roll the next turn. But that meant that he was able to get another free Precipice Blades essentially on both the Amoonguss and the Xerneas, and that really limited Ashton's chances for the entirety of the battle. And yeah, very well done here by Alex. And yeah, for the second game, I think Ashton has to come up with something new. Maybe turn 1 you want to switch into the Salamence or something. Maybe lead off with the Salamence to try and set up that Tailwind if he has it early on. There's still a couple of options that Ashton's team had, and as we were saying, yeah, it's one of those teams where it's really yeah, versatile, has a lot of different options, and now is the time to show that you're aware of what your opponent can do. Ashton needs to kind of see what Alex's strategy was in that game and then come up with something to counter that.
Exactly. We had a lot of good information revealed there. We've seen Z moves on both players' side of the field with the Malicious Moonsault on Incineroar and the Tectonic Rage on the Landorus, as well Raw on both sides of the field as well. That's really crucial when you're facing down against an opposing Xerneas. So that's something the players, they now know is on their opponent's team, so they do have to play around that a little bit more. Of course, both Tapu Finis as well have yet to sort of reveal themselves and strongly in this game. They're also Pokemon that can really challenge each other with different movesets. But I think if you're Ashton at this stage, I think you're right. You need to maybe adjust your leads a little bit so that you're not forced to switch, because if you're Alex and you can predict that there's going to be a switch here, it kind of buys you not so much a free turn, but that little bit of an advantage where you can go for some offensive damage if you can predict what's coming in. So if you're Ashton, maybe you need to switch up so that when you're facing down against that Gengar, you've already got an answer. Maybe even have that Groudon out front.
Yeah, I think Groudon might be one of those Pokemon. Say something like a Tapu Fini and Groudon lead for Ashton. If he has Icy Wind to try and slow everything down, maybe swap out the Groudon turn 1 to avoid being hit by the Tectonic Rage. But even then, you're opening yourself up against a play which could be say like Sludge Bomb and doubling up into the Tapu Fini. So I think Alex with the Landorus and Gengar lead combination has all the tools to like do well in this matchup if he lands the predictions and so on. So yeah, I'm not really sure if trying to go for the hardcore Xerneas setup like Ashton did in the first game is the way to play this matchup, because yeah, we've now also seen Roar, we've seen Taunt, and there's just a lot of things to go through. And yeah, Amoonguss on Ashton's side did not carry the Mental Herb, so just a single Taunt is enough to shut down all the redirection opportunities. And yeah, we're seeing the Amoonguss and Xerneas lead though right away from Ashton, and yeah, on Alex's side it's going to be Landorus and Gengar. So now we might be in a similar situation as in the first game, but yeah, if Alex lands the Taunt correctly, that is, but this opens up an opportunity where Ashton could go for a Protect and either, well, Spore or Geomancy play, kind of depending on where he expects this Taunt to go. And yeah, that would mean that he could buy an extra turn where Alex is forced to Taunt the next turn and yeah, set him back just a little bit. So yeah, this is still, well, Ashton is definitely giving himself a chance here, even with the Amoonguss and Xerneas lead that might look a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to the synergy between, I was about to say between the Amoonguss and the Xerneas, but there's no Amoonguss now to have that synergy. Instead, it is going to be that core of the Groudon and the Xerneas. So If this Gengar is maybe going to taunt into that Xerneas slot, you might want to protect it up at this stage. But I think a great Pokemon to face down against that Gengar that gave Ashton so much trouble previously is this Groudon. You can taunt it all you want, unless it's going for something like a Swords Dance. You can't really stop that Precipice Blades. But then, of course, Landorus, being a flying type, isn't going to be affected by that either. So it's an interesting switch in here at the moment as Gengar decides to Mega Evolve as well.
Yeah, this might be an all-in kind of turn from Ashton, and he might be going for the Geomancy right away and hoping that his opponent is targeting down the Amoonguss with something like Taunt and U-turn. We do see the Taunt and no Protect from the Xerneas, and it looks like he got it correctly here as we're seeing Taunt go onto that Groudon and just the U-turn. So well done here by Ashton, reading into that play, and it seems like there's going to be a Geomancy in this time around. Yeah, it might be a little bit difficult for Alex to get off that roar because Ashton has his own Primal Groudon next to the Xerneas, and a combination of like Dazzling Gleam boosted by Geomancy and Precipice Blades might just be enough to get the knockout there. So very well done here by Ashton, going for a very risky play turn one, but it definitely paid off.
Yeah, Ashton, you can see him nodding there. He was really, really happy with how that turn played out. Of course, Amoonguss being there, kind of baiting that it would have the Rage Powder anyway, so it's almost like, why even try and taunt that Xerneas? I'm only going to Rage Powder it away. So sort of a great bluff there from Ashton, as the Geomancy does go up on that Xerneas, so +2 special defense, special attack, and speed. Going to be able to outspeed that Gengar now as well, which is one of its formidable opponents, and gets a special defense boost.
And I like what Alex is kind of doing here. So he didn't commit to either play. Like, he wasn't like, okay, I think definitely the Amoonguss is protecting and Xerneas is attacking, or the other way around. But since U-turn was directed into the Xerneas, that meant that even if Amoonguss protected and Xerneas went for the Geomancy, he would have been able to U-turn into the Groudon and get the same situation that we had in the previous game. However, Ashton didn't protect the Amoonguss. He swapped straight out into the Groudon. So now this is what really changed the dynamic of the situation in Ashton's favor, and yeah, very well done. Also, kind of, even though Alex was able to switch in a fresh Pokemon off of the U-turn, yeah, in the end it doesn't really help him too much because now his own Groudon is really threatened by his opponent's Groudon as well. So yeah, again, I can only say well done by Ashton, and now it's Alex's turn to try and come up with a way to come back from this, but this might already be over in a way.
Alex, of course, still kept all his options open there. Like you said, he'd gone for the taunt, but then the U-turn into the opposing Xerneas. But you do have to worry if you're Alex's Groudon at the moment, because a Moonblast from that Xerneas is going to be really hard hitting. Gengar deciding to leave the field, taking the Shadow Tag with him. Yeah,
he wants to take the Precipice Blades and potentially Dazzling Gleam and then go for the Roar, I would assume. So this comes down whether Ashton is maybe even targeting down the Groudon with Moonblast, and whether that Groudon can take the attacks. But no, we're seeing Dazzling Gleam. So yeah, this should be Dazzling Gleam and Precipice Blades. And yeah, if Groudon on Alex's side can take the combination of these attacks, or maybe if there is a miss, no miss.
No miss.
And yeah, this might already decide the battle.
Is it going to be enough? Yep. No, Groudon is able to hang on here. Landorus, of course, getting that Intimidate on as well, which has really benefited its partner Groudon, as Xerneas is once again roared away by the opposing Groudon. And Amoonguss is going to rejoin the field here. Yes, it can go for some redirection here, but with Precipice Blades being a double target move, that's not really going to help out Groudon at all. Unless you want to maybe go for something like a Spore, even if there is a Tapu Fini in the back that could switch in, Landorus could still fall asleep. But it's a tricky situation, Marcus.
Yeah, so I think Ashton maybe might have missed an opportunity here to go for, say, like Moonblast into that slot. Of course, he was covering for a potential Landorus switch, but didn't even get the KO there. So in the end, Ashton, for all his troubles, he did a lot of damage, but now the Power Herb is already consumed. And Alex is in a position where he can kind of like breathe again and, well, does not have to worry about the Xerneas that much anymore. So while it will still give Ashton the edge here in this battle, Alex definitely found a way to come back into this.
He certainly has. Amoonguss once again joining the field and leaving as quickly as it has arrived, as Salamence comes onto the field. Goes for this Intimidate, going to intimidate, of course, both the Landorus and the Groudon. If that Landorus is the physical variant, this is going to be really beneficial for Ashton, just trying to set himself up so that Alex cannot deal as much damage in return. And it is going to be that Z move, the Tectonic Rage.
Where did it go? I think I saw Alex shaking his head a little bit.
Oh, so no.
He might have made a prediction there and wanted to double target the Amoonguss here, but let's see. So the Tectonic Rage goes into the Salamence slot, and yeah, Groudon doubling up into the left side with a Fire Punch. So he was expecting his opponent's Groudon to protect, but no, Ashton once again playing it very, very risky. Now going for the Stomping Tantrum into the Landorus slot. Oh, wow. So both of them really going all out with some of the reads here, and almost no damage done this turn. And yeah, well, so both of them still with all 4 of their Pokemon left, but yeah, this was once again an opportunity for both of them really to get a...
It just didn't go their way.
Yeah, to get a slight edge here in this matchup, but now Salamence on the field, threatening KOs on both the Landorus and the Groudon with Hyper Voice, and now this might be an opportunity for Ashton to say, call back his Groudon and bring out the Xerneas or the Amoonguss once again, and then yeah, sweep through his opponent's team with that Salamence, because I think Salamence right now are looking very, very strong.
It certainly is, and that turn could have gone so many different ways. If maybe the Tectonic Rage had gone into that Groudon, or the Storm Punch had gone into the opposing Groudon, that could have really changed up the ball positioning. A lot of players being forced to bring in a Pokemon from the back and change things up. But as it stands, Salamence is in here looking really, really healthy. It's able to maybe Mega Evolve, get something off like a Hyper Voice. Both of Alex's Pokemon are not going to be in a position to really take it thanks to their low HP stats at the moment. Amoonguss, however, going to jump back onto the field for Ashton as Salamence does go for the Mega Evolution.
Yeah, as we were predicting, nicely done there by Ashton, in my opinion. There was no really a reason to keep the Groudon in. It has been intimidated, and there's no prime target at the moment. Instead, just go for the Hyper Voice, get the Amoonguss out, and 2 clean knockouts here on Alex's Pokemon. So now he's left with the Mega Gengar and what we would assume to be the Xerneas on his side, but Ashton already has the Amoonguss in store for some redirection action and also the Salamence to do some damage. However, there's one thing that I could see for Alex, which would be there's still like the option for, say, Icy Wind, which could bypass the Rage Powder. And considering that, there might still be some mind games though. We get confirmation that Xerneas is the last Pokemon of Alex, but yeah, because Ashton needs to decide on whether he wants to either, like, say, set up Tailwind, or like get off a Spore. But depending on what Ashton does, I don't think there is a single move that where there is like no option for Alex to have some sort of counterplay. But if he has Icy Wind, and yeah, he can try and see whether he wants to taunt or go for the Icy Wind, get a knockout on the Salamence through Rage Powder, and yeah, so I think there's still some options here for Alex.
Of course, the Salamence doesn't want to face down against that Xerneas. Even though it's taken some HP, something like a Dazzling Gleam could still potentially pick up the KO against it here. And Gengar having access to Taunt could go into that Amoonguss and just stop it going for any spores. We can see there's no Tapu Fini on the field, so there's no Misty Terrain to compete with. But if you're taunted, you're not going to be able to spore at all and get that redirection either. So that could be a target down there for Gengar, or it could go for that Icy Wind, like you were saying, Marcus, and get that speed altered. But instead, just going to be a strong Sludge Bomb going into that opposing Amoonguss. Does almost 50%. As Salamence goes for Double Edge, targeting down that Gengar, just wants to remove it from the field. And Alex is going to be down to just his Xerneas here on the field. Does go for the Dazzling Gleam, not going for a Geomancy or anything at this stage. Thanks to the recoil that Salamence took, easily going to be able to pick up the KO, but Amoonguss is still going to be trouble for that Xerneas, and knowing that Ashton has the Pokemon in the back that he does have, that's, you know, really worrying because Xerneas, particularly seeing that clear smog. So good information for Alex here as well.
Yeah, so there's not going to be any Geomancy on Alex's side either, but now we're going to see the Groudon coming for Ashton, and he should be able to take that game relatively easy. So both trainers in the last turn realizing that this was probably the deciding turn of the battle, really thinking it through, and in the end, Ashton with the upper hand in that one, seeing as Double Edge was able to get the clean knockout on Gengar on Alex's side. So we didn't get to see Icy Wind. Maybe he wanted to hide that information for later, or maybe he just doesn't have it, as there's a lot of other options too, like for example Shadow Ball or Substitute. And so yeah, we're seeing yeah, this time it's a little bit different. In the first game, Alex really dominating here with the Landorus and the Gengar up front, but now for the second game, with his first turn, really risky, switching in the Groudon and going for the Geomancy despite facing down that Mega Gengar. Really well done on Ashton's side, and in the end, even though Alex was able to get that Roar off to yeah, get rid of all the boosts on the Xerneas, in the end, it's going to be Ashton who will take the second game, and it looks like we have our hands on a Game 3 here.
That's always very exciting. We love a Game 3 at the International Championships. The thing I've loved most about this Game 2 from Ashton is the way he's utilized that Amoonguss. It's not been like a defensive or an offensive player, it has been purely bait. There's 2 situations where it's been on the field and he switched it right out, and it's caused Alex to make his game plan go into pretending there was an Amoonguss there, and then Ashton's able to capitalize on that, knowing that Alex is going to target down the Amoonguss. And I think that's been a really expertly demonstrated use of Amoonguss in this game.
Yeah, very, like,
very different.
Well-picked mind game there by Ashton. Yeah, bringing in the Amoonguss. I think initially he had this plan prepared. Like, he knew he was probably going to face Landorus and Gengar, but he knew, okay, in the first turn I'm going to switch back the Amoonguss and go for the Geomancy, and it's going to work. And yeah, it did work. So yeah, well done to Ashton. I think for this third game, though, he might have to come up with another strategy, because I think yeah, Alex now knows that there is a possibility of a play like this to come out from Ashton. And of course, Ashton, we were saying it before, a very dangerous player that can always swing battles with taking risks and so on. And yeah, we've seen it here again and again. And now, as the Amoonguss will get the final knockout of this battle, knocks out the Xerneas with Clear Smog, and Ashton ties up the series 1-1.
Yeah, very fitting there for Amoonguss to take the KO against the Xerneas, making Ashton 1 apiece here with Alex. And it's going to be this exciting game 3. You can see both players, though, they know how great the Pokemon standard is at the moment that they're playing. There hasn't been anything too radical. It's just been expert Pokemon play. And I love the adaptation that Ashton has there. But you're right, Marcus. I think now going into this game 3, Alex is going to know a little bit more about the mindset of Ashton. He knows how he's playing this team a little bit. And if you're Ashton, you maybe want to go a little bit more on the offensive for this game 3. No more tricks, no more switching around. Just maybe get your Pokemon in where they need to be and then just start taking some damage.
Yeah, it also really goes to show that this team that Ashton is using, even though in the first game it looked like Alex had a very clear plan, knew what he wanted to do, Ashton was able to come up with a new plan on the fly, essentially, and with a very, very risky play, for sure, but a play that won him the second game. And so it just goes to show that this team is just so dangerous. That's, yeah, sometimes even if you're facing against someone who has a deliberate plan for that matchup, you can still lose, or, well, the Xerneas Groudon team can still win, coming up with, yeah, creating free turns for Xerneas or Groudon, and we just saw that and how powerful that is. So, yeah, I think Alex is probably now the one who has to think about what he wants to do. He looked like he was very confident in his Gengar and Landorus lead, but now seeing as well his opponent has adapted to that. Now, what do you do? Do you want to stick to that or come up with something new? I think Ashton also has the opportunity to maybe use his Mega Salamence up front, or he could switch it in the first turn, and that's another opportunity for him to like try and go on the offensive. Say you're leading with, I don't know, Tapu Fini and Tapu Fini and Groudon, as I was suggesting, and then switch in the Salamence on the first turn, because it looks like Alex's answer to the Tailwind of Ashton's Salamence would be the Taunt, but if you prevent that from happening, then that's also a road you can go down. So yeah, what looked like a very clean sweep in the first game now all of a sudden turned into a very, very like head-to-head encounter in this third game, where it's hard to call, and I don't want to give anyone the edge here based on the team matchup.
It's very evenly matched at the moment. Both players are playing spectacularly as well, and I think you're right as well, Marcus. If I was Alex right now, I would be very wary of that Salamence. We know that it's a Pokemon that can deal a lot of damage through Hyper Voice, as he's already demonstrated, and things like Double Edge. It can just pick up a lot of damage for your other Pokemon to maybe pick up the KOs later on. And if it does have something like Tailwind and gets that up, you're going to be in a little bit of a sticky situation if you're Alex. But here are the leads, and joining us for the first time in the set is going to be that Tapu Fini paired up with the Groudon on Alex's side of the field.
Yeah, so as I was saying, Tapu Fini and Groudon is also an option to lead off here in this kind of Murray situation if you're expecting your opponent to go for a Xerneas setup. And now Ashton, going with this for the exact same lead as in the second game with the Amoonguss and the Xerneas, has to face down a Groudon that we know has Roar, and a Tapu Fini where we do not know what it is capable of doing. So it might have Haze, which is another way to get rid of the stat boosts on the Xerneas, with a Misty Surge, Misty Terrain, blocking any sort of Spore that the Amoonguss from Ashton could throw out. So yeah, Alex looks like Alex probably expected this specific lead combination and has a plan of how to deal with it.
Yeah, he's changed it up really well. And Tapu Fini, we've spoken a lot about how it's a Pokemon that's a bit of a mystery at the beginning. It doesn't have a game 1 anymore to figure it out. And if this Tapu Fini has got access to something like Torn or Icy Wind, he can really start making the plays on Alex's side in a better ball positioning for him going forward. Again, with that Amoonguss, it does still have the redirection, so even if a Roar is coming out from that Groudon, you can redirect that Roar over to the Amoonguss and get Xerneas or Geomancy'd up. But Tapu Fini is going to be leaving the field as Incineroar comes onto the field, going to have that fake out going into the next turn, and of course, if it's packing Roar, there's a lot of things here that you have to worry about if you're Xerneas.
Yeah, for sure. And with Incineroar, yeah, also potentially carrying Fake Out and Snarl, though it looks like with Alex really like just switches up his strategy entirely, though he also switches up his Pokemon. Okay, it looks like he did not want the Tapu Fini and the Groudon to stick around for too much longer. Now switches in both Xerneas and Incineroar of his own, so it looks like he wants to get ready to set up his own Geomancy, as Ashton's Amoonguss just goes for the Rage Powder, and we are seeing the Geomancy right away, so it looks like Ashton did not feel threatened by a potential Haze here. Instead, just going for the Geomancy. Now, Alex, well, he can go for a Fake Out and Geomancy play on his own the next turn, but even then, well, it's two Xerneas, both of them are boosted, and then it's always kind of difficult, because Xerneas, well, against each other, they just like, even out, but then I guess all the other Pokemon is just like so dangerous as Xerneas can throw out KOs left, right, and center.
And this Amoonguss has revealed Clear Smog, so that's something that the opposing Xerneas does have to worry about. There's no redirection on Alex's side, so while that Amoonguss is still able to stay around, Clear Smogging its opposing Xerneas there could be a good strategy for Ashton to keep his up on the field. But if you're Ashton, you definitely want to try and get some damage out with your Xerneas as well. You don't want it to be roared away and this Geomancy to be futile. So you do have to be careful that you keep it protected. It's just the fake out from this opposing Incineroar at the moment. Who do you think is going into, Marcus?
Yeah, probably has to go into the Xerneas, but we might see Xerneas switch into the Groudon and then fake out into the Xerneas just so that the Clear Smog doesn't do too much damage. And then you gotta play around this again, like you could protect the Groudon and go for a Flabblitz to knock out the Amoonguss potentially, so that then next turn you can switch in your own Xerneas, protect and roar, but yeah, you gotta go a long way. So we got the fake out, and this should be Clear Smog going into the Groudon. Yep, as it is. So, actually into the Incineroar. Wow, how did that happen? But yeah, it looks like Ashton was really sure that there was going to be a switch like this. So very confident play once again by Ashton. But yeah, this also could have gone a little wrong. Anyway, though, it looks like Ashton once again with the turn 1 very risky Geomancy has put himself in a very strong situation, and Alex probably just didn't respect it enough and now has to really come up with some new ways of trying to beat this. But yeah, actually the Clear Smog damage on Incineroar might be huge, because now this might mean that the Moonblast from Xerneas could be enough for the clean knockout, as a lot of trainers opt to train their Incineroar in a way that it can take that boosted Moonblast. But now with a little bit of chip damage, yeah, that might actually be enough for the KO. So yeah, Ashton once again playing like one step ahead of Alex in this one.
Yeah, the Amoonguss going for the Rage Powder here, going to leave the Xerneas free from potentially being roared out. Is it enough? And it is enough. Wow. That Moonblast with a little bit of chip from Clear Smog, picking up the KO against that opposing Incineroar. You saw the delight from Ashton there as Incineroar took down into its Pokeball as Precipice Blades comes out from the opposing Groudon. So not being baited by the roar here, says you can use your Rage Powder all you want. I've got a double targeting attack, and you can see how much damage it does to that opposing Xerneas as well.
Yeah, this is really big, because without the chip damage on the Incineroar, like if Incineroar took that attack, then we could have seen something like a Flabblitz directed at the Amoonguss, and then the Roar into the Xerneas. So usually Groudon would be faster than Incineroar, but Roar being a move with decreased priority would have hit afterwards. So even if Amoonguss tried to, say, Rage Powder away the Roar, Incineroar would have hit first with the Flabblitz, knocked out the Amoonguss, and then the Roar would have come along. But yeah, with a little bit of chip damage, that making all the difference here. And Ashton once again proving that he knows how to read this matchup, how to he understands how to play this, and that really goes to shine. Now switching in the Salamence for another round of Intimidate, but this might mean that now the Groudon can finally get off that Roar if he wanted to.
Yeah, the Moonblast actually going into that opposing Tapu Fini isn't quite enough to pick up the KO. We'll get a special attack drop, but in the way Tapu Finis are being run at the moment, that's really not going to be too much worry for Alex's side of the field. Does get its Wiki Berry activated though, will regain some HP as it goes for the Icy Wind. So one of these moves is going to lower the speed, and if you're Salamence, that is not the move that you want to be switching into.
Yeah.
You can see how much damage it does, and it's not a very offensively powerful move, mainly used of course for these speed drops that you can see happening on Ashton's side of the field as Groudon goes for the Precipice Blades.
Big will connect. Okay, does connect to Xerneas, though Groudon did get intimidated. Is it enough for the knockout? It is not. 2 HP remaining for the Xerneas, and this might be it for Alex in this one. Yeah, he really needed that to KO. He could have gone for a Fire Punch instead, but wanted to make sure that he can also hit the Amoonguss, so instead going for the Precipice Blades. Does connect, but 2 HP remaining, and this means that Xerneas is now pretty free to, say, go for like a Dazzling Gleam and a Hyper Voice, or maybe even, yeah, he could protect the Xerneas, but now, like, at this stage, like getting one more attack off with the Xerneas might just be enough, because Tapu Fini usually do not run Protect, so this might be like a clean, say, Moonblast into the Tapu Fini and Hyper Voice into the Groudon, and Groudon has to spend yet another turn dealing with the Xerneas.
Yeah, just keep your momentum up at this point if you're Ashton. Just keep going on the offensive with your Xerneas. Because potentially if you're Alex at the moment, you are going to have to start playing a little bit defensively. So Ashton can maybe capitalize on that and start getting out more powerful Moonblast, or even the Dazzling Gleam here is going to deal a huge amount of damage. Dazzling Gleam is the option of choice here from the Xerneas. Does a huge amount of damage to Tapu Fini, is enough to even pick up the KO, having survived the Moonblast previously, and does a good amount of damage to that opposing Groudon. Not going for Precipice Blades, instead opting for Fire Punch with the accuracy. Didn't even really need the critical hit there, it only had 2 hit points, but I think going for the accuracy over the Precipice Blades that wouldn't have hit Salamence anyway is really great, but Salamence able to get that Tailwind up.
Yeah, and now Ashton is free to switch in his last Pokemon, which we would expect it to be that Primal Groudon, and then in under Tailwind, yeah, Salamence and Groudon can go for their spread moves, Hyper Voice and Precipice Blades, and as long as Precipice Blades connects, then this should really be Ashton's game. So once again, very, very well done by Ashton. Just really risky Geomancy turn 1, not caring about haze or anything that Alex could throw at him. And Alex kind of maybe predicting a little bit too far ahead and going for the double switch, but it didn't work. Like, if you're double switching against Xerneas, then unless you're switching in, like, say, I don't know, Stakataka Bronzong, then sometimes that can go really wrong. And yeah, we just saw that with Ashton Xerneas. It didn't need to sweep through the entirety of Alex's team, but just punching in holes, like getting the knockout on the Incineroar and getting also KOing that Tapu Fini just means that now the field is prepared for Ashton's Groudon. He set up the Tailwind in a perfect time as well.
Yes.
Right now when the Groudon hit the field, and yeah, it looks like unless Alex somehow was able to dodge a couple of Precipice Blades, this might be over.
That is the big question though, Marco, is it all comes down to the accuracy of these Precipice Blades at the moment. You can never rule it out, you can never fully trust it as a move.
We've seen Stomping Tantrum from Ashton before though, so he might just want to go for, say, like a double edge into the Xerneas and Stomping Tantrum into the Groudon if that KOs. So yeah, Ashton might not even have to rely on some of those moves connecting, but yeah, he can just go for the super accurate ones.
That would definitely be what I would be doing in this position at the moment when you're in this amazing endgame position. The Salamence has gone and Mega Evolved into Mega Salamence now onto the field as the opposing Xerneas does go for a Protect, so wants to get on the defensive here. Alex maybe just wants to preserve it for a little bit longer, see if his own Groudon can maybe get some damage off on its own. It's going to be the Fire Punch coming out here though, going into that Protect though, so a good Protect from Alex on his Xerneas, as Groudon does go for the Precipice Blades, of course not going to affect the Salamence, but will connect on that opposing Groudon.
Yeah, he would need a critical hit here, I think, for the knockout. It doesn't look like one, and yeah, so Groudon's sticking around for another turn. However, of course, that was the best option that Alex really had, and now he might have another turn where he can try and go for that double Protect. It doesn't always work, but sometimes it does, and if it did, then that could really swing the momentum once again if he can then maybe get the KO on Groudon. And the first Precipice Blade's doing like a little less than half, so maybe with a damage roll, he might be able to get the knockout there, and then he might still be in this, because the last Pokemon of Ashton is an Amoonguss, and that doesn't really pose too much offensive pressure. So Alex, if he can call this correctly and then get maybe a little bit lucky, then there might still be a chance for him to come out on top of this.
Yeah, when you've got a Xerneas, there's always a way, as we say, but does not get the double Protect. The Salamence is free to go for another double edge. Powerful move here going off into that Xerneas, does a huge amount of damage. Will, of course, take some recoil for its trouble as Groudon goes for the Fire Punch. So Ashton really wanting to play it safe here and going for these 100% accurate moves. Picks up the KO against that Xerneas, and now Alex just has this Groudon left against the Pokemon on Ashton's side. Does go for the rule, though. Going to be bringing that Amoonguss onto the field, which Groudon's a little bit happier facing down against, but that Salamence still has a lot of power.
Yeah, I think that was actually probably a better move than going for the Precipice Blades that I suggested, because Precipice Blades would have needed to get the knockout on the Groudon, or else then the next turn Xerneas, well, would have needed a triple Protect. But even under Tailwind, Amoonguss is slower than Xerneas and Groudon, so yeah, he could have gone for like a Dazzling Gleam and Fire Punch combination the next turn, and then, yeah, well, Alex still is in the game somehow, so I like what Alex was going for here with the Protect and Roar, but in the end, unfortunately for him, didn't get the double Protect, and Ashton, yeah, didn't want to risk anything, just went for the double target right into that Xerneas, gets the knockout now, and yeah, now it's 3 against 1, and it looks like Ashton, with the Salamence especially being such a strong Pokemon against Primal Groudon, yeah, 2 Hyper Voices, and this game should be over. And Ashton, after that first game where Alex looked so strong, Ashton came up with this Amoonguss and Xerneas lead, just going for very aggressive Geomancies turn 1, and that is what won him the set.
The thing I loved about Alex though in this game 3 here, is he didn't let himself get too defeated. He still was looking for all the opportunities that he could have to get back into this game and try and take the game 3 out from under Ashton, but unfortunately it doesn't look like that has been successful as Groudon is able to jump back on the field. We've already seen how much damage Hyper Voice does to this opposing Groudon, and it looks like Salamence, the tricksy little Pokemon that's been so well showcased by Ashton, is going to be able to clean this up for him.
Yeah, very well done. Once again, I cannot stress how well Ashton really adapted after this first game. Losing the first game is always a difficult situation in a best of 3 set, but the way Ashton adapted with really realizing that, okay, maybe I have to take some risks, but oh well, I'll make it worth. And yeah, going here for the Xerneas setup twice, and Yeah, I was saying after the first game that Xerneas didn't look like the Pokemon that Ashton really needed here in this matchup, but it turns out that that is exactly what he needed, and that's why he's sitting down there and I'm up here. So very well done by Ashton, now advancing to a perfect 4-0 record. Alex, of course, still in contention for tomorrow with a 3-1 record, still looking strong, but yeah, losing the first set of the day for him. And Ashton, yeah, once again, looking for yet another strong performance here at the European International Championships 2019.
He's kept himself so focused and composed throughout that whole set. You know, the game one went sort of the other way, and then Ashton's just able to kind of come back, use the Salamence a lot stronger in games 2 and 3 as he did in game 1, and it made Alex kind of go on the back foot and have to adapt himself a little bit more. Alex sort of sticking to the leads that he really liked. There was that a lot of the Landorus action going on there as well, but Ashton was able to bring that Amoonguss into the fold a little bit more, and I feel like that's actually been one of the stars of this set, has been that little